If you want to lock apps with Fingerprint on Google Pixel 10 Pro, you can use the private space. So with private space, we can set up a password and also a fingerprint that can be separated from the fingerprint that you, for example, use for the screen lock password. So we're gonna open settings. Over here, scroll down to security and privacy, and then you should be able to find the private space. Verify yourself. Use biometrics or screen lock password, press setup in the bottom right corner, and now we just have to wait a couple of seconds. So the private space is like a separate environment. It's like having a phone within a phone where you can store apps, data, accounts, and so on and so forth. And it will be separated from everything that you have outside of the private space. Now over here we can press got it in order to sign into our Google account. If you want to, you can use a separate Google account. You can also use the same one. It actually depends if you want to, for example, keep all the data that you have on your Google account separated in the private space as well. I'm gonna use the same account that I use on my phone. Afterwards, I'm gonna choose that I will be using this device, so let's go next, and we need to agree to Google's terms of service. After that, we can set up the password, so you can either choose a new password or a new password just for the private space, or you can use the same password that you use for the lock screen. I'm gonna choose a new password, enter the current screen lock password in order to proceed, and then we can choose one of these password types, and all of these three options, as you can see, they also include the fingerprint. So let's say I'm going to choose a pattern. First, we need to set up the main password for the private space. I'm going to use this one, enter it twice in order to confirm, and afterwards we can set up our fingerprint. So let's press start, and now let's just scan our finger. There we go. After that, we're gonna tap done. And shortly after that, we should see that we are all set. You should be able to find the private space at the bottom of the app drawer. We can tap on this lock in order to unlock it. There we go. And in order to lock an app, the idea is that you need to install the app in the private space, because the private space has its own apps, and these apps in the private space they have all their own data. So for example, if I want to lock, let's say Spotify, for example, I can tap on install over here in order to open the Play Store in the private space. And if I try to search for Spotify, you will notice that it is actually not installed. I can install it. This is because this app is not installed in my private space. Well, now it is. So we can go back. And if I go to the private space, as you can see here, it is. So now I have two apps, and this app can contain a completely different data depending on how I set it up. But essentially, this is like a clean app that doesn't have any data. And in order to access it, I need to access private space first. If I don't unlock the private space, I don't have access to that app. So now, once I have my app installed over here, and remember to always set it up before you, for example, uninstall the app that you have outside of the private space. Because if you don't want to have the app over here outside of the private space, if it should be just locked in the private space and that should be the only version of the app, and then you can just simply uninstall the app from the phone over here. And there we go. As you can see, the app is uninstalled, but I still have it over here. I can open it without any issues. So this is how we can lock the app. It is now inside the private space. In order to open the private space, I need to use my fingerprint or password, of course. And that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe.